Today's topic is on the skeletal system, which supports our body and is 20% of our human weight. The other 80 is our muscles, which we'll talk about next week. But today we'll talk about the skeletal system. So without further ado, let's go right into this video. BioBlast, the skeletal system. What is the skeletal system? If we didn't have a skeleton, we would just be a slack of flesh. We wouldn't be able to stand, run, walk, or even sit. The bones in our body make up the skeletal system, which gives our shape and support. The human skeletal consists of approximately 20% of the human weight. An adult has about 206 bones, while a baby would have about 300 bones. And the reason why babies have more bones than adults is because when you're a baby, you have like many tiny bones. But when you as you grow older, those tiny bones form to combine and join together to form larger bones, which is kind of why the number decreases. Our skeletal system protects our internal organs that are attached to our muscles to help us move. Our bones are connected by tendons, which is bone muscle, ligaments, which is bone, and joints, which are the parts between our bones, and I'll go into more detail later. So a fun fact is that red blood cells actually form inside the bone. So that's where you get red blood cells from. Okay, so the skeletal system functions. The skeletal system has 5 main functions in the human body. So number 1, it protects internal organs. Number 2, it produces red blood cells in the bone marrow. Number 3, it supports the whole entire body. Number 4, it stores and releases minerals and fats. And number 5, it helps facilitate movement by being attached to our muscles. Okay, so here is the human skeleton. Here is the main bones, like we have our femur, our tibia, fibula, patella, skull, clavicle, and then we have our cervical, thoracic, and lumbar vertebrae, and our pelvis, and many other common bones that we know of. So the skeletal system is divided into 2 parts, the axial skeleton and the appendicular skeleton. So the axial skeleton is represented by the bones in the center line. So all the bones right here down the middle are the axial skeleton, and they consist of your ribs, your vertebrae, and your skull, right down the middle. While your appendicular skeleton is represented by the sides of the bodies, like your fingers, your shoulders, your pelvis, legs, arms, all that. And fun fact, femur is actually the longest bone in the body. So now you know. Okay, now we have bone structure. So our bone is an organ made of layers of different living tissue. The bone's surface is covered with a tough membrane called the periosteum. Next is the compact bone, which gives the bone strength and is made mostly of calcium, making the bone really hard. So we have the periosteum, and then we have the compact bone. And then we have the spongy bone, which is right over here. This spongy bone is located towards the end of the bones and have open spaces that makes the bones lightweight. That's why our bones are not super duper heavy. In the center, we have long openings called cavities. Over here, in spaces where the spongy bones are filled with substance called marrow. So we have red marrow and we also have yellow marrow. And the marrow can either be yellow, rather than yellow. And also the ends of the bones are covered with a smooth, thick layer of tissue called cartilage. This is what makes our bones from not becoming stiff and rough and a scratch against each other. The cartilage is what helps. And also we have cartilage in our ears, if that's another common place. So this material makes it easier to not have the bones rubbed together. Right. So bone formation. As I mentioned earlier, babies have about 300 bones while adults have 206. Why is that? So it's because babies are more flexible cartilage, and as the child grows, the bones fuse together to make 206. So bone-forming cells are called osteoblasts. And then osteoclasts are when bones that are breaking down bone tissue. So it's kind of strange because you would think that clast is like forming and blast is like breaking, but it's actually the opposite. Osteoblasts are when you're forming them, and osteoclasts are when you're breaking down bone tissue. And those release mineralized calcium. And this is kind of the process of how the bone is formed. Now we have joints. So let's say you're playing with your friends, and in order to have to move, all these motions are possible because our skeleton has joints. So that's the place where two or more bones meet, and those are called joints. And these bones are held at joints by tough bands of tissue called ligaments. So it's kind of when 2 bones are held together. Those are ligaments, and this is the joint right here. Many joints are held in place with more than one ligament. For example, your knee and your shoulder, stuff like that. Muscles move the bones by moving the joints. So muscles and bones together are called tendons. So bone types. So we have short bones, flat bones, long bones, sesamoid bones, and irregular bones. So short bones are, well, bones that are short and have about equal dimensions, for example, carpals. So this is an example of short bone. And then we have flat bones that are thin, flattened, and usually curved. For example, our ribs. And then we have long bones that are really long, just like the longest bone in our body, aka the femur. And then we have sesamoid bones, which are kind of like implanted in tendons, like for example, patella, so your kneecap. And then we have irregular bones that just don't match any of the other 4 categories. So, and it would kind of look like maybe like your vertebrae or something like that. So these are types of joints. So there are 3 types of joints: fibrous, which are immovable; cartilaginous, which are semi-movable; and then synovial, which are freely movable joints. So some cartilaginous, aka semi-movable joints, are synchondrosis, symphysis, aka these bones, semi-movable. And then we have synovial joints, which are freely movable, kind of like, I guess, our legs, our arms, so such as those. And then again, immovable joints, kind of like our skull. And here are some more pictures of cartilaginous, synovial joints. And synovial joints are kind of like your plane, hinge, ball and socket, saddle, pivot, ellipsoid. All of those are examples of synovial joints. I think a common one is like ball and socket, especially like around your shoulders and your shoulders. That's a ball and socket joint. And then you have hinge joints around your knees, pivot around your elbows, many more examples. And now here are some common skeletal diseases. So before we get into those, a fun fact is that the bone that is most broken is the clavicle, aka the collarbone. That's on average worldwide. So the 2 most common skeletal diseases are osteoporosis and osteoarthritis. So osteoporosis is a disease in which the bone tissue becomes brittle, thin, and spongy, most likely to fracture. So this is like normal, but this is someone with osteoporosis. And then we have osteoarthritis, which is when this is a healthy joint, and osteoarthritis can happen when your cartilage between 2 bones start to break down, and the less cartilage can cause the bones to rub it together more, which is really bad and can cause a lot of pain. Thank you for listening to this video. Please subscribe and give this video a big thumbs up.